I would rather have a life well lived than a life where you never took a risk in life. So we're talking about how this guy said women weren't allowed to have credit cards until 50 years ago because of sexism. As a
Auto loan,
sarcastic
they
comment
total.
to this video of a woman talking about her student loan debt.
I recently posted about the fact I'm 26 years old and I'm in $95,487.73 worth of debt, and I want to talk about it. Up until 24 hours ago, I did not know that was actually the total of all of my debt, credit cards, and student loans. That number also does not include my auto loan, and if we are adding in my auto loan, the total number is $110,938.83. Since totaling up all of my debt, I don't think I've actually gotten one good breath of oxygen in the last 24 hours. I feel like there is an elephant sitting on my chest, and I don't think I can sit still because all I keep...
Now imagine, she probably went to some out-of-state private school when she could have just went to community college. But the out-of-state Big Ten school has what? The ability to party and bang hot guys. Sorry. I've heard the men at Big Ten schools are very attractive. I don't know. I never went to a Big Ten school. But you have to understand that's what women are communicating subtly. You have to understand this. Women don't like average men so much that they are willing to take on this much debt instead of be with you. That's the next time you want to like step in for a woman on a train, solve women in your lives' problems for free. Just remember that women are communicating, I would rather have $95,000 worth of debt than be with you. When women come around, when the girl that puts you in the friend zone says, hey, I'm back. Just remember, she was communicating, I would rather have slavery level debt than be with your sorry ass. Remember that. So.
Keep repeating is $95,487.73. All of this debt was racked up through decisions I made between the ages of 18 and 26. My first associate's degree I got from a community college and I didn't have to pay for it because of the Pell Grant, but I decided to go to a university and got my bachelor's degree, which is where I really started to rack up the debt.
There it is. I told you. I said, when... I wonder what school she went to.
Then in the last 2 years, I decided to finish a nursing degree at a community college in the last 2 years, but that's where I started to rack up even more debt. What really sucks is realizing that the majority of these student loans is not from tuition. It's actually from living expenses and living way above my means. My debt comprises of 2 credit cards, 5 federal student loans, and 5 private Sallie Mae loans. I can handle the federal student loans, but when I tell you Sallie Mae is bending me over and not in a way I like, it's actually insane. Sallie Mae is genuinely evil and they prey on young students. And the reason why they take advantage of young students is because they know if you're reaching out to a private loan like that, you genuinely need it. Out of the 5 Sallie Mae loans I have, one of the interest rates that is the highest is 16.28%. The lowest interest rate I have with Sallie Mae is 9.88%. Now, my federal student loans are between 4 and 6%, which I think is manageable. Although I had parents who would tell me what I should or shouldn't do, I never had anybody really sit me down and fully teach me financial literacy.
Translation, the internet is free, and I was too lazy to learn. Look, I in my life have taken some very shitty deals, okay? I have had to learn the hard way many times in my life. But every time I've taken an L, I like to think I eat it with the chin. Like, I like to think I just eat it. Do you know what I mean? Where I'm just like, ooh, that was stupid. I'm not going to sit here and pretend I haven't done stupid things. I absolutely have. I am no better. I am no better than really a lot of women out there. But what I don't like doing is when I make a mistake or I mess up in life, I really think I take L's like in an art form. I really think I have the ability to just eat an L. Now, I don't want to get into it, but I signed a contract a few years ago, back before I was famous. And I'll just say this cost me a lot of money. This was a very stupid contract that I basically took, and it cost me probably over $100,000. I did not make enough money for it to make sense. As most of you know, I have been fighting on the front lines of the simp epidemic for years, but I need to tell you about a quiet weapon being ratcheted up against men that is rarely talked about. It's not just the relentless anti-masculinity propaganda and OnlyFans hoes causing the societal issues that we discuss on this show. Did you know that the average city's tap water contains trace pharmaceuticals and endocrine disruptors? This often includes estrogen from birth control. The average adult consumes a credit card worth of plastic every single week. That's 5 grams of plastic a week on average. So it's no wonder that the average male's testosterone is half of what the average was 50 years ago. Testosterone levels decline 1% a year, and without a course correction, we are headed towards extinction. No matter how based you are, you need to be naturally boosting your testosterone. My friends at Choq, CHOQ.com, are on a mission to save mankind from extinction by boosting your vitality. Choq's Male Vitality Stack contains premium and potent herbs clinically studied to naturally boost your testosterone levels, sperm count, and overall vitality. Just one of the many ingredients in the Male Vitality Stack was studied in double-blind human clinical trials to boost total testosterone 20% in 90 days. When you boost your testosterone, you'll have more mental clarity, you're more capable of making decisions and taking risks. Having high testosterone will also affect your pheromones, so women will find you more attractive subconsciously. Get the Choq Male Vitality Stack right now on Choq.com. That's CHOQ.com. Use my name Pearl as your coupon code and you'll get 25% off site-wide on Choq.com. That's CHOQ.com. My name Pearl is the discount code. When it goes wrong, I just always think to myself that I was an idiot. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's always sometimes in life, there's people that learn the easy way and the hard way. And at times you learn the hard way. You know, like when a guy spends a bunch of money on a ring for a girl and then she like keeps it forever. That's him learning the hard way. You ever told a guy not to simp? But men, when they take that L, they realize how stupid they were. I mean, a lot of times men, the consequence kind of, like when they get a consequence, they're like, oh, well, isn't it my own actions? But she's going to say, oh, I just didn't understand. Well, if you didn't understand, it's your own fault. And I've been in that situation, and it was my own fault. It was my own fault. It was very stupid. So I just don't like it when it's got to be always someone else's fault. It's kind of like when these porn stars do porn. Why can't you guys just say I did porn because I enjoyed having sex on camera? I loved the thrill of the gangbangs. You know, I loved throwing it. Why can't it be that? Why does it always have to be that I was lost and broken and coerced? You know, when you sleep with a guy that doesn't call you back, that's life. Why don't you just say, I went for someone out of my league and it didn't work out? Why is it always that he was the manipulator? Why can't it just be like I wasn't good enough and I outdid myself? You know, but it's always got to be somebody else's fault. And this is just over and over again to the point. I wish if we could really develop one skill together as women, is the ability to take L's better. You know, men take L's all the time, and at times you're going to do something stupid and it's going to be embarrassing. I mean, that's part of the ups and downs of life. People that take no risks are generally the ones that have never looked stupid and never had ups and downs. That's part of life. And I think in general, I would rather have a life well lived where there are ups and downs and you make mistakes rather than one where nobody takes any risk. You ever meet those people? And it's like the people that have just barely ever they've barely done anything in life. You know, they never went for the guy or the girl they wanted. They never took the shot. They never went for the job they wanted. They never moved to that big city they wanted to live in. And it's just like a sad existence. But we have to understand as women, there are times, you know, there are times when you're gonna date the guy and it's not gonna work out. That's life. There are times when you're gonna go to school and you expect to get a high-paying job and you don't get it. That's part of life. Now, there's mistakes that obviously can be mitigated and avoided, very obviously, but we're not gonna. But my issue with us is, why can't we just make a mistake and own it? Why can't, you know, yeah, I got too fat. Yeah, I took too much debt. it wasn't because I didn't understand. It was because I ate too much. I went for somebody out of my league. Do you know what I mean? There's like a list of like, I signed up for a degree that didn't make any money because I wanted to do something I was passionate about instead of doing something that made money. Women don't make mistakes, Pearl. Look, and I'm being honest, I'm passionate about this. I would rather have a life well lived than a life where you never took a risk in life. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of like ask the girl out that's out of your league. Shoot your shot with the guy you like. You know what I mean? It's like go apply for that job you're not qualified for. Move to a city where you don't know anybody. F it. You know, you have one life to live. You have one life. You know, and what I just don't like is if you want to take the risk, accept that sometimes it will not work out. You know, there's housewives, they have 10 kids and they get divorced. It didn't work out. That's life. That was a risk. And that's one of my issues with feminism is women want, you know, one thing it talks about if you get married young, that takes the risk that he might leave you when you're old. And that's a risk. That could happen. That's life. Now, it's not really statistically likely, but if it happens, all you can do is control yourself. You can't control other people. And I just wish as women, I really wish we could just accept that we made a mistake without blaming anybody else. And I think there's some psychology. We don't want to be seen as bad people. So we're just constantly like not wanting to be seen as a bad person. But again, I think the most freedom comes in life when you just don't. Do you think Leonardo DiCaprio cares if you see him as a good person while he bangs 18-year-olds on his yacht? Now, I'm not saying that's what you should do, right? But when you spend your life caring about the way others see you, you're going to be able to be manipulated by anybody because you care about their opinion, you know. I don't know. I'm pro live life, but accept that it might come and have L's with it. It just happens.
Had anybody sit me down and really explain to me the scope of what I was doing and what it would look like in the future when I had to pay for it. In the moment, all of the student loans just felt like fake money because they just kept coming and I just kept spending. I don't regret any of the experiences I've had.
Okay. I think that's an ego thing. Do you know what? Because when I signed that bad contract, I'll tell you what, I absolutely regretted signing it. But there's no reason to dwell on it because you can't do anything about it now. You can't live in the past, right? You can only live in the now and make decisions with the information you have now. And sometimes I knew somebody who made a very bad relationship choice when she was younger. She ended up having kids with this guy. It didn't work out. And, you know, it was clearly over. And there are times where I would always joke with her that 90% of the time I'd say work it out with the father or your kids. But in this case, this is one of the few cases where I was like, yeah, I mean, you can't. Because I would say like drugs is something that are pretty tough to, like if you get involved with a dude that's into drugs, that's pretty tough. I don't know if you guys have, I've seen addicts over the years and that's just not, but you know, look, and what I told her was, you have the information now, you can't dwell in the past. And I understand that mindset. You can't, right? You can only control what you do moving forward. But I still think there was some humility in saying you regret things.